Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Foot Forecast. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing if Michael Carrick should be appointed as Manchester United manager. He's obviously currently the interim, but should he be appointed as the full-time manager? That's what I'm going to be discussing, as well as talking about some other alternatives to Carrick as manager. So let's start with some reasons why I think Carrick should be appointed as United manager. Well, they've been so much better since he's come in as interim in terms of results, but also performance. And he's got the best out of the squad. Bruno Fernandes has played so much better under Carrick, and it was as simple as just moving him further forward, which I thought was so obvious, and I never understood why Amarin didn't do this. But also the side has become a lot better, and he's just implemented a counter-attacking system that worked for this Manchester United squad. A very simple change, but very effective, and for this reason, it looks like United are going to be playing in the Champions League next season, and United could be better if Carrick gets a transfer window next season, because he hasn't been able to spend any money so far, and I just think the atmosphere around the club is so much more positive with Carrick in charge, in terms of inside the club, with the players, but also outside the club with the fans. And the fans just love Carrick as the manager because he is a United legend, and changing Carrick could cause United to go back to where they were before under Ruben Amorim. So there's definitely a risk with getting rid of Carrick. But why wouldn't I keep Carrick as United manager? Well, United could be found out under Carrick. I mean, there's already some cracks starting to appear. When United have more possession, they have struggled recently, which was a previous issue under Amorim. I would say one of the biggest issues. And a more experienced manager, or a manager that's better at breaking down low blocks, could fix this, as I think it's one of the hardest steps in football to be good at breaking down low blocks. And for me, this is what turns often a good side into an elite side, and it's often the final step you have to take to make that transition. And for this to happen, United may need to sign some more possession-based players as well, and implement a more possession-based system, which may not suit Carrick as manager. I think this is something they're going to have to do either way if they decide to keep Carrick as manager, as I think it's a must to be a top side, especially in the Premier League, where teams will just happily sit in for 90 minutes. Carrick also lacks the experience, I think, to be a United manager, and he also failed at Borough. This is worth discussing. He didn't succeed at Middlesbrough. And should United really appoint a manager full-time that was sacked at Borough? Probably not, because he's been sacked at a lower standard in the Championship. And United have also played a minimum amount of games this season, which is a huge advantage. And United are expected to play a lot more fixtures next season with Champions League, or at least some games in Europe, and also games in the Cup, which Carrick isn't used to. He's had multiple games a week in the Championship, but not to this extent in terms of the quality of games he will be playing. And currently United are on a high. They're performing well, but in the long term, I can see this changing like it did with Ollie. United were outstanding at the start with Ollie as manager, but over time it definitely regressed. So I'm now going to make my decision around if I would keep Michael Carrick as Manchester United manager. If it was me, I would go for an alternative option. And if I was to rank him on this tier list, I think I'd rank Carrick as a D, because I just think a lot of top managers could have done what Carrick has done this season. Just come in, basically put players in their right position, and just put a bit more belief into the side, which Amarin clearly wasn't doing. And I can't ignore the fact that I just don't think Carrick is actually a top manager. I think there's so many better candidates than Michael Carrick, but I have given him a bit of credit. At the start, I would have ranked Carrick as an E, but because of what he's achieved this season, I've decided to move him to D. But in my opinion, he's too limited as your manager to take United forward. And I don't think he fulfills some of those sort of crucial steps that I think United need to take. One of the main ones is being able to break down low blocks. I don't see Carrick being able to achieve this. So now let's go through and discuss some potential replacements for Carrick as manager. And I'm going to start off with a really interesting one, and it's one of the best managers of all time, and that is Carlo Ancelotti. And look, his CV tells you everything you need to know about Ancelotti as a manager. And would it be a better appointment than Michael Carrick? Of course it would be. But I'm a bit worried it has the Jose Mourinho vibes in terms of a really big name. But would it actually succeed with this United squad? I think in the short term it would, quite similar to Carrick in terms of a counter-attacking manager. And he's definitely a better manager than Michael Carrick. But I would worry a bit in the future about his sort of ability to break down low blocks. I think United will become a real good side in cups, but in the league, I think they could struggle. And for that reason, I'm not going to rank Ancelotti in A, I'm going to rank him in B. So then we're on to the next manager, and I'm actually going to do two at the same time. That is Iraola and Fabregas, because I think they're similar. They're two very exciting young managers who have very good ideas. I think they would make United a better side in terms of breaking down low blocks. I think there are two managers that could perform a long-term project at Manchester United, which I think is really important. So for that reason, I'm going to put them in C. But where are my concerns? They're too inexperienced, I would say, to be a United manager, and they wouldn't be one of the top ones on my list. And to be honest, despite me ranking them above Carrick, if these were the two options United came to, I'd be very tempted to just keep Michael Carrick as United manager. So then we've got a next option, and it's another sort of young, sort of progressive manager, and that is Enzo Maresca. Maresca did a good job, in my opinion, at Chelsea. And if Chelsea backed Enzo Maresca better, I think he could have gone and really challenged for a league title. But in my opinion, those Chelsea owners know nothing about football, so that's why he didn't really have the success he should have at Chelsea. In saying this, I still think he did a good job, and I think he is a good manager that would be worth taking a punt on, and I would definitely take him over Michael Carrick. Then we've got the next option, and this one is Gareth Southgate. Straight away, Southgate's going in E. I think this is pretty easy to understand why I'm putting Southgate in E. He's never had any success as a club manager. And look, I actually think Southgate's job at England's actually quite underrated in terms of taking them to this point. But he's nowhere near good enough to be a United manager, and he doesn't solve those issues of breaking down low blocks, and I think he's too pragmatic as a manager. Then we're on to the next option, and that is Julian Nagelsmann. I'm straight away putting Nagelsmann in A. If Manchester United can get Nagelsmann, he would be one of the top candidates for me. A very young manager, very progressive, and has an attacking style of football, and very effective in terms of breaking down low blocks. I think he's a manager that could take United forward, and I also feel like he's a manager that would be willing to go on a project with United, which I think is important. I think whoever the manager is, they need to back them for a longer period of time, because I don't think it's going to be a simple fix for this United side in terms of long-term success. So then we're on to the next option. I'm actually going to do a group of managers, and that is Unai Emery, Simeone, and Inzaghi. And the reason why I've grouped them all together is because for me they're three very good managers, but I don't think they're the managers to take United forward. And for that reason, I'm going to put all three of these managers into C. The reason why, I don't think they're really managers that suit sort of a top Premier League club, and I actually discussed this as well when I was discussing potential replacements for Arne Slot in another video. And why? Because they don't play that attacking style of football. I don't think they're elite at breaking down sides, and I think this will cause problems if any three of these managers get this job, so I wouldn't be looking at them. The one I did sort of consider at the start of the season was Diego Simeone. In fact, I said I thought he'd be a really good option for United, and that's because I think he could perform a good long-term project. He's a manager that's had success in the past, but I just don't think he suits being United manager, and I don't think he'd be very popular with the fans. So then we're on to the next manager, and that is Thomas Tuchel. I really like Thomas Tuchel as a manager. He did an excellent job with Chelsea before being sacked, and he shouldn't have been sacked as manager, as he achieved the Champions League with that side. And he wasn't doing that bad when he was sacked. And it was mainly due to, once again, the incompetence of that Chelsea ownership. I would put Tuchel in to B. Where am I a bit worried with Tuchel? I don't think he's an elite manager when it comes to breaking down low blocks. And I also don't think he's a manager that's sort of a long-term project manager. And this is proven by sort of his previous times at different clubs. Then we're on to the next manager, and this manager is definitely a project manager, and that is Mauricio Pochettino, another former Chelsea manager, another manager that I don't think should have been sacked at Chelsea, and he did an excellent job in my opinion with Spurs despite being able to bring in success, and for that reason I can't put Poch, I think, in the top tier, but I would put Poch in the B tier. I think he's a good manager, he plays an attacking style of football. And as I've already said, I think he's a manager that could be a long-term option for Manchester United. One slight concern I have with Poch is sometimes he can struggle to break down low blocks. Then we're on to the next option, and that is a manager that we know is leaving at the end of the season. That is Oliver Glasner. And I'll continue to say this with Glasner. For me, Glasner isn't a good option for any of these sort of clubs. I think it's a Thomas Frank-esque appointment where I don't think his sort of style of football suits a top club, the three at the back, which is previously not worked under Ruben Amorim, but also I think he's too pragmatic. I think United need a manager that gets on the front foot and an expert at breaking down low blocks, which I don't think Glasner is. So for that reason, I'm putting him into E. Then we're on to the final option, and this would be my ideal candidate for Manchester United. The only problem is he really going to be available in the summer? It looks unlikely because it looks like he's going to be signing a contract with PSG, and that is Luis Enrique, in my opinion, the best manager in the world right now. And that's proven by the fact he's the current Champions League holder and he could win it again. If United can get Enrique, then they 100% need to do this. They need to go get him. He's an expert at breaking down low blocks. He plays a really attacking style of football, and he's someone that Old Trafford could get behind. Let me know your thoughts on Michael Carrick potentially being Manchester United manager as well as the replacements. My opinion on the replacements are I would take any manager in B or A tier over Michael Carrick, and then the ones in C I would consider, but I think at that point you may just go, should we just keep Carrick for maybe another season and then we look at our options in the next summer. But I can't see Carrick being the manager that takes Manchester United back to where they want to be, because I just don't think he's actually good enough at this point. Maybe in the future, but definitely not right now. If you enjoy this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as liking the video.